The mystery of temporal experience. Have you ever truly paused to consider how your brain shapes the reality you experience every single moment? The flow of time, the sense that your life has a past, a present, and a future. It's not just out there in the world, waiting to be observed. Your brain doesn't passively record events like a camera. Instead, it actively constructs the story of your life, moment by moment. It decides which details to highlight, which memories to preserve, and which experiences to fade into the background. Even when you think you are simply remembering the past, your mind is quietly editing, rearranging, and smoothing events to maintain a coherent narrative. This process is so seamless that most of the time, you're completely unaware it's happening. Yet it is fundamental to how you experience time as a flowing, continuous thread. Every sensation, every thought, every fleeting moment of awareness contributes to the living story your brain is constantly weaving. The sense of continuity, the feeling that life unfolds along a straight line from past to future, is not a given. It's a delicate construction of your own mind, happening right now, as you listen, as you think, as you exist. Have you ever noticed how your mind seems to anticipate what's coming next, even before it happens? This is called predictive processing, and it's one of the brain's most remarkable tricks. Every moment, your brain is making predictions about the world and then quietly checking whether they match reality. When it notices a mismatch, it doesn't always shout about it. It subtly edits your memories, your perceptions, and even your understanding of events to keep the story coherent. Think about it. The brain prefers a smooth narrative rather than a collection of disjointed facts. It rewrites tiny details without your awareness, so your life feels like a flowing, understandable story instead of a chaotic series of incidents. This isn't deception. It's the brain doing what it does best, creating a seamless experience, letting you feel that your past, present, and future are all connected. Without this predictive editing, your sense of continuity, of this is happening now and it makes sense, would crumble. The simple act of remembering, in fact, is already an act of constructing reality. What if the timeline you feel inside your mind isn't a passive recording of events but an active creation? Your brain doesn't just observe time, it constructs it, constantly adjusting, weaving together moments into a coherent sequence. Each second, your mind decides how to arrange memories, how to anticipate what comes next, and how to link them to the moment you are experiencing. The timeline isn't just a straight line. It's a living, dynamic structure that exists because your brain maintains it. From the smallest detail of what you just saw or heard, to the broad strokes of life's major events, your sense of temporal flow is the result of countless neural processes working in harmony. This construction makes your life feel continuous, even though the raw data of experience is fragmented and fleeting. In a sense, your timeline is your brain's masterpiece, a carefully maintained illusion that gives you the feeling of moving smoothly through time. And this is only the beginning of the mystery. The specious present consciousness in a temporal window. When we speak of the present moment, it is tempting to imagine it as a single, frozen point in time. But closer examination reveals a richer, more complex reality. The present is not instantaneous. Instead, it exists as a brief duration, a temporal window that typically lasts a few seconds. Within this window, the past, present, and immediate future are intertwined in a continuous, dynamic flow. This specious present is the framework through which consciousness perceives the unfolding of experience. It allows us to remember what just occurred, to process what is happening now, and to anticipate what comes next, all at once. It is within this bubble of awareness that the brain knits together perceptions, thoughts, and expectations, creating the seamless narrative of our lived experience. Without this temporal window, our consciousness would be a fragmented series of isolated instants. The specious present is what gives life its continuity, allowing action, thought, and reflection to coexist in a unified experiential flow. Understanding this concept is fundamental to exploring how consciousness constructs time, and how the sense of self emerges within it. Within the specious present, your mind is constantly juggling multiple layers of temporal awareness. You are aware of what just happened, sensing the fading echo of events or words that have already passed. Simultaneously, you experience the immediate present, the sensations and thoughts that are occurring right now, but consciousness does not stop there. It also anticipates the near future, predicting what is likely to happen in the next few moments. This blending of past, present, and future allows you to speak coherently, act purposefully, and interact meaningfully with the world around you. This temporal interweaving is not something you actively notice. It happens automatically, effortlessly, and invisibly. Yet it is the very mechanism that gives your experience of time its continuity and flow. Without this ability to perceive multiple moments together, life would feel disjointed, and the sense of personal identity would be difficult to sustain. The specious present is, in essence, the brain's stage for conscious life, a small, moving window through which your awareness observes and participates in the unfolding of reality. Not everyone experiences the specious present in the same way. The duration, clarity, and continuity of this temporal window can vary dramatically from person to person. Some people seem to perceive time as a smooth, flowing river, while others experience it as a series of discrete, disconnected moments. Certain neurological conditions can profoundly alter this experience. People with disorders affecting the brain's timing mechanisms might feel trapped in a single instant, unable to link moments into a coherent flow. Others might perceive time as fragmented, with seconds slipping past without connection. These differences are not mere curiosities. They reveal how fragile and finely tuned the brain's temporal machinery is when these systems are disrupted. The seamless continuity that most of us take for granted can break down completely, highlighting just how much work the brain does to construct our experience of time. Understanding these variations gives us insight not only into the mechanisms of perception, but also into the nature of consciousness itself. The way you experience the flow of time is deeply tied to the structure and function of your own mind. Your sense of time and your sense of self are intimately connected. The very networks in your brain that help you perceive temporal relationships also help you maintain the feeling of being a continuous, persisting individual. As you move through moments, the brain stitches together past memories, present sensations, and anticipated future events. This stitching process creates not only the flow of time, but also the narrative of who you are. Your identity is, in a sense, woven from the threads of temporal experience. When time seems to slow, speed up, or fragment, your sense of self can shift along with it. Consciousness and temporality are not separate. They are deeply intertwined. Understanding this connection helps us see that our personal identity is not a static thing. It emerges dynamically as we move through the specious present. In essence, the experience of being you is inseparable from the experience of flowing through time. To understand one is to gain insight into the other. Question: if consciousness constructs time but unfolds in time, which comes first? Think about every moment you've ever experienced. The ticking of a clock, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the echo of a memory. It all feels like time is simply moving, carrying you forward. But pause for a moment. What if this feeling of movement isn't something outside of you? What if it's something your mind is actively creating? Consciousness seems to unfold in time, right? You remember the past, experience the present, and anticipate the future. And yet, the very flow that makes this possible might be a construction of consciousness itself. If consciousness creates the sense of time, then time is not just a backdrop for life. It is a product of life, a creation of your mind as it interprets the world around it. This leads to a puzzling loop. How can consciousness move through something that it itself is generating? It's as if the painter is also the painting, the dancer is also the dance, and the storyteller is both the story and the one reading it. This is the paradox. The thing that seems to exist independently, time, may actually emerge from the very process that appears to be within it. Some philosophers call this a co-emergence, a situation where consciousness and time are inseparable, each giving rise to the other. Imagine trying to separate rhythm from music, or waves from the ocean. Perhaps consciousness and time exist only in relationship, never truly alone, and realizing this can shift the way you think about every passing moment. Every second you notice, every fleeting thought. Time might feel inevitable and external, but in the deepest sense, it may be a dance between the mind and the world, a performance in which the observer and the flow are inseparable. Every heartbeat, every thought, every awareness of a moment might be both a witness to time and the act of bringing it into being. Now let's dive deeper into this notion of co-emergence. The idea is subtle but profound. Time doesn't exist in isolation, and consciousness doesn't simply float along a pre-existing temporal river. Instead, they arise together, each depending on the other for its meaning and existence. Think of it like a dance. The dancer cannot exist without the rhythm, and the rhythm has no purpose without the dancer. Similarly, consciousness needs time to perceive, to remember, to anticipate. Yet, time needs consciousness to be experienced at all. Without someone or something aware, time may be a silent, meaningless backdrop, a mathematical abstraction without reality. Every conscious experience seems to stitch together past, present, and future into a seamless flow. This flow creates the impression of continuity, of moving through a linear progression. But if consciousness itself is generating this flow, then time and awareness are locked in a feedback loop, each moment of consciousness producing a sense of temporal direction, and that temporal direction shaping how consciousness itself unfolds. This co-emergence challenges our most basic intuitions. We like to think of time as out there, flowing steadily like a river, and of consciousness as in here, drifting along like a boat on that river. But perhaps the river is being drawn by the boat itself. Perhaps each perception, each thought, each flicker of awareness is simultaneously the sculptor and the sculpture of time. Some interpretations in physics and philosophy hint that this is not just poetic musing. It may reflect the fundamental nature of reality, where observer and observed, awareness and temporal flow, cannot be separated. The universe may be a kind of participatory phenomenon, where reality, time, and consciousness co-create each other moment by moment. Understanding co-emergence transforms the way we live in every present moment. Each thought, each experience, each fleeting awareness is not just passing through time. It is actively shaping what time feels like, what time becomes, and how consciousness itself continues to unfold. Buddhist philosophy offers a remarkable lens through which to understand the relationship between time and consciousness. In Buddhism, nothing exists in isolation. Every phenomenon, every event, every thought arises in dependence on countless other factors. This principle, called pratityasamutpada or dependent origination, tells us that reality is a web of relationships, where nothing has independent existence, applied to time and consciousness. This means that neither can be fully understood alone. Consciousness emerges only within a temporal context, and the sense of time itself only exists because conscious awareness perceives it. They are intertwined, mutually arising and mutually shaping each other. Think of a wave on the ocean. The wave cannot exist without the water, the movement, the wind, and the underlying current. Likewise, time as we experience it cannot exist without conscious observation. But just as a wave gives shape and form to the flow of water, consciousness gives structure, continuity, and narrative to the flow of moments. This perspective helps dissolve the strict boundary we usually imagine between inside and outside, between observer and observed. Time is not simply an external container in which consciousness moves. It is co-constructed, continuously arising with each act of awareness. Each thought, each perception, each memory and anticipation brings a moment of time into being. Buddhist insights also emphasize impermanence and the fluidity of experience. Every moment is transient, continuously arising and dissolving, never fixed. This mirrors what modern neuroscience suggests. The brain is constantly updating, predicting, and revising its own narrative, creating the illusion of a continuous temporal flow. By viewing time and consciousness through the lens of interdependence, we begin to see that our experience of the past, present, and future is not a passive observation. It is a living, dynamic process, a dance of awareness and temporal reality that unfolds together, moment by moment. The arrow of time and entropy. Time feels familiar because it has a direction we can observe everywhere in daily life. Pour a cup of hot coffee and watch as it slowly cools. You never see it spontaneously heat itself back up. Drop a plate, and it shatters on the floor, the shards scatter, but they never come back together on their own. Even in the small, mundane moments, time's arrow is visible. Your bedroom in the morning is neat, everything in its place. By evening, after a busy day, the room is in disarray. Clothes are on the floor, books are scattered, papers are misplaced. Order naturally flows into disorder unless energy is spent to restore it. These examples are not just coincidences. They hint at a deeper principle in nature. Time is directional. Events unfold in a certain sequence, moving from what we consider the past to what we call the future. It is this inherent asymmetry, this natural progression, that gives us our sense of time passing. Even the smallest actions, pouring a drink, opening a book, tying your shoes, carry this forward momentum. We can intuitively sense the past as fixed, the present as fleeting, and the future as open and uncertain. This everyday experience of directionality is the first window into understanding why time never seems to reverse in the ordinary world. Entropy might sound like a complicated physics term, but it is something you experience constantly. It is, at its heart, a measure of disorder, of how energy and matter naturally spread out and mix over time. Imagine walking into a bedroom where everything is perfectly organized. The books are stacked neatly on the shelves, the clothes folded, the desk clear. Now, imagine a busy morning. You rush to get ready, open drawers, pull out clothes, knock over a cup, and shuffle papers as you prepare for the day. By evening, that same room is chaotic, scattered, and messy. This is entropy in action. Entropy doesn't just describe a messy room. It governs the universe at every scale. Consider your cup of hot coffee. Left in a cool room, the heat from the coffee will naturally spread into the surrounding air. The coffee cools, the room warms slightly, and energy spreads out until equilibrium is reached. This is the universe moving toward a state of higher disorder, where energy is more evenly distributed. The principle is universal. Broken eggs don't spontaneously reform. Smoke never gathers itself back into a cigarette. Ice cubes melt and don't freeze again by themselves in a warm drink. Each of these examples shows how entropy increases over time, creating a natural direction for time itself. In fact, the arrow of time is fundamentally tied to the growth of entropy. Entropy is also subtle and surprising. In the presence of gravity, a uniform distribution of matter is actually a highly ordered state. Early in the universe, everything was evenly spread, which might seem like chaos, but gravity wants matter to clump together. As the universe expanded, stars, planets, and galaxies formed, releasing energy and increasing disorder in new ways. Entropy isn't just about messiness. It's about energy dispersal, structure formation, and the hidden bookkeeping of the cosmos. So, when you think of entropy, don't just picture a messy desk or cooling coffee. Think of it as a universal meter, constantly ticking, measuring the spreading out of energy, the dispersal of information, and the subtle rules that give time its unmistakable arrow. It is the principle that connects the chaos in your everyday life to the grand story of the cosmos, showing how the simple act of things becoming disordered is linked to the very flow of time you experience. Have you ever noticed how your coffee cools down, never spontaneously heats itself up again? Or how your tidy room gradually turns into a chaotic mess as the day goes on? This is not just life being inconvenient. It's the second law of thermodynamics at work, quietly shaping the flow of time around us. The second law states that in any isolated system, entropy, a measure of disorder, tends to increase over time. Think of entropy as the universe's way of spreading energy evenly, moving from order toward disorder. Your coffee starts hot and concentrated, but heat spreads out to the surrounding air, and eventually the coffee reaches room temperature. The energy has become more evenly distributed, more disordered, and there's no natural process that reverses this spontaneously. Similarly, when you leave your room untouched for a few hours, books fall out of place, papers scatter, clothes end up on the floor. You could clean it, decreasing local entropy, but in doing so, you expend energy, and the total disorder of the larger system, including yourself, increases anyway. This universal tendency gives time its apparent arrow, a direction in which events unfold from past to future, because moving backward would mean decreasing entropy, which is overwhelmingly unlikely. In essence, the second law doesn't just explain why things get messy or why coffee cools. It's why you perceive a flow of time at all. Your sense of before and after is rooted in the increasing disorder of the universe around you. The arrow of time is physically real, written into the very processes of nature, from the microscopic movements of particles to the grand evolution of stars and galaxies. Why does the universe even have an arrow of time? Why does one direction feel forward and the other backward? To understand this, we need to look at the very beginning of everything, the initial conditions of the cosmos. Physicists believe the universe started in an extraordinarily special state, extremely hot, dense, and remarkably uniform. This might seem like maximum chaos, but under the influence of gravity, such uniformity is actually highly ordered, low in entropy. Gravity naturally wants matter to clump together, to form stars, galaxies, and eventually planets and life. But at the very start, matter was spread evenly, resisting clumping, creating a state of low entropy. As the universe expanded and cooled, tiny fluctuations in this uniform matter were amplified by gravity, forming the first structures: stars, galaxies, clusters. This process, while creating local pockets of order, paradoxically increased the universe's overall entropy, because it released energy that spread out as heat and radiation. Entropy increased, and the arrow of time began to emerge at a cosmic scale. From this perspective, the flow of time is deeply connected to the universe's birth. Every event we perceive as forward in time is part of this grand trajectory from a low-entropy beginning to a progressively higher-entropy universe. The stars burn, black holes form and evaporate, galaxies collide. All of it is part of the slow unfolding of entropy, the engine behind the arrow of time. Your life, your moments, your experience of past and future, all ride on this cosmic wave. Time's apparent direction is not arbitrary. It is written into the structure and evolution of the universe itself, starting from the very first moments after the Big Bang. Time, information, and the universe as a computational process. Have you ever thought about what it really means when we say entropy is increasing? Beyond disorder and messiness, entropy can also be understood as information, the information that is lost about a system's original state as it evolves. Imagine you have a neatly stacked deck of cards. Every card is in its expected position, every suit in order, everything perfectly organized. The information about the deck's precise order is complete. There is zero uncertainty. Now shuffle the deck randomly. Suddenly, you lose the knowledge of the original arrangement. The deck's entropy has increased because the information about its initial state has been scrambled. On a cosmic scale, the same principle applies. When the universe began in that extraordinarily low entropy, uniform state, there was a maximal amount of information encoded in that initial arrangement of matter and energy. As the universe evolves, structures form, stars burn, galaxies merge, and energy spreads out. In the process, some of that initial information becomes irretrievably distributed, lost to the vastness of space and time. In this way, entropy is more than just disorder. It's a record of information lost over time. And the arrow of time, the forward direction we experience, emerges naturally from this information loss. The universe is constantly forgetting its past configurations, moving from low entropy, highly ordered states to higher entropy, less predictable states. Your everyday life mirrors this cosmic principle. Every time you clean a messy room, you are temporarily decreasing entropy locally, but the energy you expend spreads out, increasing overall entropy and dispersing information. The universe's informational bookkeeping is always at work, and your experience of time's flow is intimately connected to this constant loss and redistribution of information. What if time isn't just a river we drift along, but a kind of cosmic computation? Every moment that passes could be seen as the universe updating its own internal database of reality, processing information from one state into the next. Think about your brain for a moment. Every second it takes in a flood of sensory data, sights, sounds, touches, smells, and internal thoughts. It processes all this information, compares it to memories of the past, predicts possible futures, and produces your continuous conscious experience. In a way, your brain is a mini-universe performing its own version of temporal computation. Now scale this up to the cosmos. The universe itself might be continuously processing information, updating its state with each passing moment in the flow of events. Every collision of particles, every fusion in a star, every movement of energy carries information from one configuration to another. This processing creates what we experience as the passage of time. From this perspective, time is not just a backdrop against which events unfold. It is a dynamic process, an ongoing computation transforming potentialities into realities. The flow of time is, in essence, the universe reading its own current state, calculating the next, and writing the outcome into existence. Even quantum physics fits into this picture. When particles become entangled, they share information instantaneously across space, maintaining coherence as the universe updates itself. This suggests that the flow of time and the processing of information are deeply interconnected at every scale of reality. So when you feel time passing, minutes drifting by, hours seeming to vanish, it may not just be a psychological illusion. You could be witnessing, in your own conscious experience, the universe actively computing its next state, one informational update at a time. Imagine the universe as a vast, cosmic computer, constantly refreshing its internal memory. Every moment that passes is like a new frame in an endless animation, each one building on the last. But this isn't just metaphorical. Physics suggests that the state of the universe at any given moment contains all the information needed to determine the next state. Think about a star forming in a distant galaxy. The particles, forces, and energy fields interact in precise ways. As these interactions unfold, the universe updates its state, moving from one configuration to the next. Each particle, each photon, each tiny quantum event contributes to this grand calculation. In a sense, the universe is computing itself in real time, moment by moment. This process is not confined to the stars or galaxies. It's happening everywhere, all the time, even in the tiniest quantum systems. Changes propagate and ripple outward, updating the state of reality continuously. And in each of these updates, there is an arrow of time. Past and future are distinguished by the sequence of informational updates. From this perspective, your own conscious experience mirrors the cosmos. Your awareness unfolds as your brain updates its internal representation of reality. Perception, memory, anticipation. All of it is part of a continuous computation. Every thought, every sensation, every decision is a local update in the grand network of temporal flow. So, when you feel the present moment slipping into the past, you are witnessing the universe performing its own computation. Each now is a fresh update, a new version of reality being written into existence. And just as your brain maintains coherence across sensory input, the universe maintains informational coherence across space and time. This vision transforms time from a passive backdrop into an active, dynamic process. The flow of time is the rhythm of the universe updating its state, an unending computation, giving rise to everything we experience. At the tiniest scales of reality, particles don't just exist independently. They can become entangled, meaning the state of one particle is instantly linked to the state of another, no matter the distance between them. This strange, non-local connection hints at a deeper layer of reality where information, not matter, is fundamental. Quantum entanglement suggests that parts of the universe share information in ways that defy our everyday sense of time and space. When one particle changes, its entangled partner updates instantaneously. It's as if the universe maintains a hidden informational web, keeping all parts in subtle synchrony. This coherence of information is crucial for understanding temporal flow, just as your brain integrates sensory input and memory to create a seamless experience of now. The universe uses entanglement to maintain coherence across its vast complexity. Each local update, each quantum interaction, fits into a larger, interconnected informational structure. From this perspective, time itself can be seen as an emergent property of the universe processing information. The moments we perceive as past, present, and future are snapshots of an underlying informational tapestry. Entanglement ensures that these snapshots are consistent and coherent, even across immense distances and scales. In a sense, consciousness may tap into this quantum informational web. Your awareness, your perception of temporal continuity, could be part of the universe's own way of keeping information aligned to the flow of time, the sequence of cause and effect, and the coherence of reality all arise from this intricate dance of entangled information. By understanding entanglement and informational coherence, we glimpse a profound connection between the universe and our own experience of time. It's as if every moment you perceive is simultaneously a reflection of the universe updating itself, and a local enactment of its deepest informational patterns. Time is not merely a backdrop for events. It is the very rhythm of the universe computing itself, woven together by the invisible threads of quantum information. Consciousness and quantum mechanics. Some scientists have proposed that consciousness is more than just classical brain activity. It might involve quantum processes, operating at scales far smaller than neurons. Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff introduced a bold hypothesis suggesting that microtubules, tiny structures inside neurons, could host quantum states. These microtubules may function like quantum processors, allowing the brain to handle information in ways that classical physics cannot fully explain. This theory implies that consciousness is not merely a byproduct of neurons firing, but a fundamental process that taps into the quantum nature of reality. If true, it could explain why human awareness feels unified and coherent, even as billions of neurons fire asynchronously. The brain might be accessing quantum information directly, maintaining a subtle coherence that classical explanations struggle to account for. Quantum processes are extremely sensitive and fragile in ordinary conditions, yet microtubules may provide a protected environment, allowing coherent quantum states to persist long enough to influence neural activity. This could bridge the gap between the mysterious qualities of conscious experience, like self-awareness, creativity, and the flow of time, and the physical operations of the brain. In essence, this hypothesis opens a possibility. Your very awareness, the sense of now, and the continuity of experience might arise from quantum events happening inside your neurons. Consciousness could be a window into a deeper, more fundamental layer of reality, where quantum phenomena shape not just physical outcomes, but the very structure of subjective experience. It's a radical idea, but one that elegantly connects the mysteries of mind, information, and time. If consciousness operates via quantum processes, then the flow of time you perceive could be intimately tied to the fundamental quantum fabric of the universe itself. Recent research has begun to provide tantalizing evidence that quantum processes might indeed exist in biological systems, including the brain. Experiments with anesthetized rats have shown that microtubules within neurons can sustain quantum coherence for surprisingly long durations, hundreds of milliseconds to even a few seconds. In quantum physics terms, this is remarkable because quantum states are usually extremely fragile and easily disrupted by the environment. These findings suggest that the brain may be capable of maintaining delicate quantum states long enough to meaningfully influence neural processing. If neurons are not just transmitting electrical signals, but are also hosting coherent quantum states, then consciousness could emerge from a complex interplay between classical neural networks and underlying quantum processes. This quantum coherence may help explain phenomena that classical neuroscience struggles to account for example, the seamless integration of vast amounts of sensory information, the richness of subjective experience, and the unity of consciousness across time and space. The brain might be tapping into quantum-level interactions that allow for a more holistic form of information processing than classical signals alone could achieve. These experiments do not yet prove that consciousness is quantum, but they show that the brain possesses the physical machinery capable of sustaining quantum effects. This opens the door to a revolutionary view that your awareness of the present moment, your ability to integrate past and future into a coherent experience, and even your perception of time itself might be deeply connected to quantum phenomena happening inside your own neurons. If true, it would mean that consciousness is not just a computational process happening at the scale of neurons, but a bridge to a deeper, quantum layer of reality, a layer where time, information, and awareness are intertwined in ways we are only beginning to glimpse. Have you ever been so absorbed in a task, painting, writing, coding, or even playing music, that hours seemed to vanish in what felt like minutes? These immersive moments, often called flow states, offer one of the most fascinating glimpses into how consciousness might interact with time itself. During flow, your perception of temporal sequence can stretch, compress, or even seem to dissolve entirely. The boundaries between past, present, and future blur, as if the usual clock of ordinary experience no longer applies. Some researchers suggest that this distortion of time perception may be a hint that your brain is tapping into deeper, possibly quantum, temporal relationships. If neurons can sustain quantum coherence, as experiments suggest, then during these flow states, consciousness might be accessing correlations and patterns that ordinary sequential processing cannot detect. It's as if your mind temporarily slips into a layer of reality where the rigid arrow of time softens, where information can be integrated nonlinearly, and where cause and effect may coexist in a more fluid manner. Flow states may thus represent more than just heightened focus or optimal performance. They could be experiential windows into a subtler structure of time itself, revealing the quantum rhythms and interconnections that underlie ordinary consciousness. Every moment in flow could be a microcosm of how time, information, and awareness intertwine at the deepest levels. These fleeting experiences hint at a profound possibility. Your perception of time is not only psychological, but may also reflect the fundamental physical reality your consciousness participates in creating. By entering flow, you are not merely losing track of hours. You might be momentarily synchronizing with the quantum heartbeat of the universe itself. What if your awareness isn't just a passive observer of time, but an active participant in shaping it? This idea takes the mystery of consciousness to an extraordinary level. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics propose that observation itself can influence which possibilities become actualized, which paths of reality crystallize from the vast quantum foam of potential. In this view, each moment of conscious experience could be a point where the universe's possibilities are resolved, where awareness helps to select one outcome among countless alternatives. Your mind, in perceiving and integrating information, may be participating in the very process by which time unfolds. This doesn't mean you are magically bending clocks or stopping entropy, but rather that consciousness may interact with fundamental physical processes in subtle ways. Neural processes, if they support quantum effects, could allow awareness to access correlations that ordinary deterministic processes cannot. Moments of choice, creativity, and attention might therefore influence how events manifest in time, creating a participatory universe where observer and observed are intertwined. The implication is profound. Time, at its deepest level, may not exist independently of conscious observation. Your sense of past, present, and future could be co-created by the interplay of mind and matter. You are not merely witnessing reality. Through conscious attention, reflection, and decision, you are helping to weave the temporal fabric in which existence unfolds. Understanding this possibility transforms how we think about life itself. Every conscious act, no matter how small, carries a hint of cosmic creativity, a reminder that your awareness is not separate from the universe, but an integral part of its ongoing self-actualization. What if time, as we experience it, isn't a fundamental property of the universe? Instead of existing as an independent backdrop against which events unfold, time might emerge from deeper, timeless processes. Physicists exploring the foundations of reality suggest that the universe at its most fundamental level may be described not by flowing seconds or ticking clocks, but by relationships, states, and information patterns that themselves exist outside conventional notions of past, present, and future. Entropy, the measure of disorder in a system, provides one bridge between these timeless laws and our experience of temporal flow. As energy spreads and information disperses, the universe evolves from highly ordered states toward more probable, disordered configurations. This gradual unfolding creates a direction, an arrow that we interpret as the flow of time. In this sense, time emerges as a macroscopic effect, a shadow of the deeper statistical and informational processes at play. Information theory offers another lens for understanding this emergence. Every moment, the universe processes and encodes information about its state. The apparent passage of time could be viewed as the sequential updating of this cosmic database, a computational unfolding where new states build on the previous time. Is then not a fundamental entity, but a bookkeeping of changes, a rhythm arising from the universe's attempt to organize and preserve coherence amidst constant transformation. From this perspective, the flow of seconds, minutes, and hours is not absolute, but an emergent property grounded in physical laws, thermodynamic tendencies, and informational structure. What you perceive as time is the harmonious interplay between these underlying processes and the conscious mind, which interprets, records, and anticipates. Your awareness, riding this emergent wave, experiences continuity and duration, giving form to a universe that, at its core, may be timeless. While physics and entropy give us one framework for understanding time, the way we experience it is intimately tied to consciousness. Your perception of time is not a passive reflection of external events, but an active construction by your brain. Each moment you live is filtered, stitched together, and interpreted, creating a sense of flow that feels seamless and continuous. This subjective experience of time varies dramatically depending on attention, emotion, and cognitive state. When you are fully absorbed in an engaging task, hours can feel like minutes. In moments of anxiety or boredom, even a few seconds can feel unbearably long. This malleability shows that consciousness shapes temporal experience, stretching and compressing it, highlighting some moments while letting others fade into the background. Neuroscience reveals that your brain maintains a kind of moving temporal window, integrating past memories, present awareness, and future anticipation into a coherent narrative. Within this window, you are aware of the echo of what just happened, the vividness of the current moment, and hints of what is about to occur. The interplay of these elements allows you to perceive causality, plan actions, and maintain a stable sense of self across time. Furthermore, variations in neurological conditions provide insight into the fragility and complexity of temporal experience. Some individuals feel disconnected from sequential flow, experiencing time in fragments or feeling trapped in an eternal instant. Others perceive it as overly fluid, with moments blending into each other. These differences illustrate how temporal consciousness is a dynamic construct, dependent on precise neural processes that enable the seamless narrative most of us take for granted. In essence, consciousness doesn't just observe time. It shapes it, defines it, and gives it texture. Your experience of past, present, and future is a living, breathing creation of the mind, and this subjective temporal flow forms the foundation of all your memories, plans, and sense of identity. Time is not just a backdrop for events. It emerges from the intricate dance of physical laws, informational processes, and conscious awareness. The universe operates through rules that govern matter and energy, but also through the flow and transformation of information, entropy. The increase of disorder is fundamentally linked to how information spreads, degrades, and becomes irretrievable over time. Consciousness, at its core, is an information processing system. Your brain continuously takes in sensory inputs, stores memories, anticipates future outcomes, and integrates all of this into a coherent experience of now. In this sense, your awareness is not separate from the universe's information dynamics. It is deeply intertwined with them. Each moment of conscious perception represents a snapshot of information being processed and organized. Quantum phenomena further highlight this interconnection. Entangled particles, separated by vast distances, share information instantaneously, challenging our classical notion of time and space. This suggests that temporal flow, at its most fundamental level, is closely linked to the coherence and distribution of information in the universe. Conscious observers, by perceiving, integrating, and acting on information, may even participate in shaping how temporal sequences unfold. The arrow of time, emerging from entropy, creates the conditions for complexity, allowing structures like stars, planets, and life to form. Conscious beings, in turn, arise within these structures, capable of reflecting on time, recording it, and influencing its local manifestation through action and choice. This creates a profound loop. Physical processes enable awareness, and awareness participates in the organization and interpretation of physical processes. Ultimately, the interconnectedness of physics, information, and awareness shows that time is not simply out there as a linear external entity. It is a multi-layered phenomenon arising from the interplay of matter, energy, information, and consciousness. Understanding this interweaving enriches our appreciation of both the universe and our own place within it, revealing that the flow of time is as much a feature of the mind as it is of the cosmos. Time is not just a passive dimension through which events unfold. It can also be understood as a rhythm, a pulse that underlies the organization of the cosmos. From the oscillations of atoms to the rotations of planets, from the cycles of day and night to the beating of your own heart, time manifests as a repeating, structured cadence that organizes reality. At the largest scale, the universe itself has a kind of rhythm. Galaxies rotate, stars pulsate, and cosmic expansion proceeds at a measurable rate. These patterns form the scaffolding upon which matter and energy interact, giving rise to complexity and structure. Time, in this sense, functions like a cosmic heartbeat, a recurring pattern that allows order to emerge from potential chaos. This rhythmic aspect of time also pervades life at smaller scales. Biological systems rely on cycles, circadian rhythms, hormonal pulses, neural oscillations, to maintain coherence and functionality. Without these temporal rhythms, life would lose its organization, and consciousness itself might not be possible. Our awareness, synchronized with these cycles, experiences time not merely as a linear progression, but as a structured flow, punctuated by repeating patterns and anticipatory events. Moreover, this concept positions time as an organizational principle. Entropy increases, yet complexity can still arise within it because rhythmic, iterative processes allow order to form locally, patterns repeat, structures stabilize, and feedback loops enable systems to self-regulate. Consciousness may be one of the most sophisticated expressions of this principle, a dynamic system continuously integrating information over time, using the rhythm of temporal flow to create coherent experience, memory, and anticipation. By understanding time as rhythm and organization, we recognize that temporal experience is not just about sequential ticking of a clock, it is a living process, a framework through which matter, energy, information, and awareness harmonize. Each moment is both unique and part of a larger cadence, a note in the symphony of existence, allowing the universe, and our consciousness within it, to evolve, adapt, and flourish. Implications for daily life and mortality. When you grasp that your sense of time is not a fixed, external reality but an active construction of your mind, your experience of life can shift profoundly. Every moment becomes more vivid, more malleable, and more meaningful. You begin to see that the flow of minutes and hours is shaped by attention, memory, and anticipation. By actively engaging with these mechanisms, you can deepen your awareness of each passing moment. This understanding transforms mundane activities into conscious practice: washing dishes, walking through a park, listening to music. Each can be experienced as a rich, temporal tapestry, rather than a series of automatic, forgettable steps. You start to notice the subtle interplay of past experiences and future expectations in shaping your present awareness. Time becomes a medium you can participate in, rather than a relentless force dragging you along. Recognizing the constructed nature of time also encourages mindfulness. When you pay attention, you can stretch moments, immerse yourself fully in experiences, and witness the fluidity of temporal perception. Flow states, moments when hours collapse into minutes, become more accessible, because you understand that the brain's perception of duration is flexible and responsive to focus. In short, seeing time as something actively built by consciousness allows you to reclaim agency over your experienced life, ceases to be a series of uncontrollable events, and becomes a canvas on which you can paint with attention, memory, and intention. By understanding the mechanics of your temporal perception, each moment gains depth, resonance, and personal significance. Have you ever been so absorbed in an activity that hours feel like minutes? That sensation, often called a flow state, is more than just a quirk of psychology. It's a glimpse into how your consciousness actively shapes temporal experience. In these moments, the brain tunes its predictive processes and memory integration so perfectly that time itself seems to stretch, compress, or even vanish. Flow states reveal that time is not a passive backdrop for experience. Instead, it is something you help co-create with your attention and engagement. When you immerse yourself fully in a task, whether painting, playing music, coding, or even conversing deeply, you're participating in the unfolding of temporal reality itself. Your perception of duration bends and shifts, reflecting the dynamic interplay between sensory input, cognitive processing, and anticipation of what comes next. This is why creative and focused work often feels timeless. It's not that the clock has stopped, but your brain's construction of temporal flow has aligned so completely with your conscious engagement that ordinary markers of duration fade. You are literally co-authoring the passage of time, moment by moment. Recognizing this empowers you to cultivate flow more deliberately. By minimizing distractions, aligning tasks with your strengths, and engaging deeply with the present, you can expand these windows of heightened temporal awareness. Each flow state becomes a laboratory for exploring the flexible, constructed nature of time, allowing you to experience life as more rich, continuous, and deeply present. Your sense of time is not a neutral recording of events. It is actively shaped by where you focus your attention and how your memories are constructed. Moments you pay close attention to feel longer, richer, and more vivid. Moments you skim over or ignore can vanish in a blur, leaving little trace in your subjective timeline. Memory acts as a temporal anchor. When you recall past experiences, your brain reconstructs them, filling in gaps, smoothing over inconsistencies, and even emphasizing emotional highlights. This reconstruction can make distant events feel closer or further away than they actually are. The same applies to anticipation. When your mind projects forward, imagining the near future, it stretches the present with expectation and intention. Attention and memory are intimately connected. By focusing on the details of the present moment, you strengthen your awareness of time's passage, enriching each second with depth and clarity. Conversely, distraction, multitasking, or absent-mindedness can make hours evaporate without notice. In essence, your subjective temporal experience is a dynamic interplay between attention, memory, and perception. You are not just a passenger on the river of time. You are an active navigator, determining which currents to follow, which moments to dwell in, and which to let drift away. Understanding this gives you a profound tool for shaping the richness of your lived experience. Time's passage reminds us of our own impermanence. Every moment we live is fleeting, a temporary flowering of consciousness in a universe that continues its vast, indifferent flow. Mortality gives urgency and poignancy to our experience, coloring each breath, thought, and feeling with significance. Yet understanding the constructed nature of temporal experience can transform how we relate to this finitude. If consciousness participates in shaping time, then your awareness of life is itself a creative act. Each moment you fully inhabit, each sensation you notice, each thought you reflect upon, contributes to the unfolding of reality. Your presence is not merely fleeting. It is meaningful in the deepest sense, for you are actively participating in the universe's temporal story. This perspective shifts the fear of mortality toward appreciation. Life is not diminished by its impermanence. Instead, its brevity becomes a source of beauty, a reason to savor attention, memory, and experience. Fleeting consciousness is not a flaw to lament, but the very feature that allows wonder, reflection, and love to exist. In this way, understanding mortality in the context of temporal construction deepens your engagement with life. It encourages mindful presence, deliberate attention, and gratitude for the ephemeral moments that define your existence. Your consciousness, though temporary, is a profound expression of the universe's capacity to experience itself. As you sit here, take a deep breath and reflect on the profound beauty of present awareness. The very fact that you are conscious, that you can perceive, think, and feel, is a miracle unfolding in real time. Every sensation, every thought, every subtle shift of attention is part of a living tapestry, a window into the present moment that is entirely your own. In this awareness, humans become something extraordinary, time becoming aware of itself. Your consciousness is not separate from the flow of reality but intimately connected to it, participating in the ongoing creation of temporal experience. Every thought you have, every memory you recall, every hope you hold for the future, is a note in the universe's ongoing symphony. The universe, through you, has found a way to reflect on itself, to contemplate existence, to marvel at the fleeting, beautiful patterns of life and consciousness that emerge between moments. This capacity for reflection, wonder, and self-awareness may be one of the greatest achievements of cosmic evolution. As you breathe and simply exist in this now, know that the present moment, fleeting and precious, is where time and consciousness converge. Whether time flows like a river or stands still like an eternal mountain, your awareness anchors it, making it meaningful, vibrant, and alive. The insights we've explored suggest that understanding time's mysteries doesn't diminish the significance of living. On the contrary, it enriches every experience, every act of creativity, every moment of connection. Every simple observation of the world becomes imbued with deeper meaning. Memory, attention, and intention shape the way you inhabit time, and through this inhabitation, you help weave the universe's story moment by moment. Even in the face of mortality, the fleeting nature of consciousness is not a limitation but a profound gift. Your awareness, though temporary, is a unique flowering of complexity and beauty within the vast flow of existence. You are a living reflection of time, a conscious participant in the unfolding of reality. So, as you rest, breathe, and let these reflections settle, appreciate the remarkable mystery of this moment. The universe has organized itself in such a way that it can wonder, feel, and reflect through you. Your sense of now, your memories of then, and your anticipation of what is to come are not merely psychological phenomena. They may be glimpses into the very heart of how reality creates itself. Sleep well, and let your dreams carry you through the mysteries of time. Whether time flows or stands still, whether the universe is eternal or fleeting, you are here, aware, present, and participating in the most magnificent process imaginable. Existence itself.